there's a question about it, from a regulatory standpoint. Obviously, Nvidia is not going to want to damage the value of the thing that they just bought. And I think there are some competitors out there. There's a sort of a new architecture called RISC-V that if Nvidia started, reducing the ability for people to have access to ARM architecture, then we could see a lot more power and energy go into that ecosystem. So there are some things. I think here, though, what's really interesting actually is the data center side. And there, I think, while there are some ARM server-based chips, there aren't a lot of competitors there. And that is, I think, really what plays to the strength of this, the synergies of this combination.
Right, the synergies and some of the complementary ties, which we heard from Huang outline yesterday. But, these are still early days, and Nvidia may have the best of intentions going into this deal, may want to keep ARM neutral for the business model, the business case. But is it possible that sometime in the future, especially when it comes to things like autonomous driving, IoT, Internet of Things, that Nvidia could change its mind and perhaps create some kind of conflict for the 500 licensees that use ARM designs?
Yeah, I mean, so we had licenses with ARM when I was at Qualcomm, obviously still continuing. And some of those contracts are long-term. So there are things built into the contracts to make sure that companies have access to the architecture. Obviously, they start to change things and so forth going into the future, then that might change. There's no question that when SoftBank owned ARM, they were focused on Internet of Things, and they were thinking that they were going to build out even modems and so forth. So the model can change, no question. But like I said, there are also counterbalances out there in terms of other microarchitectures that people might use. And I think that there will be some energy put into that ecosystem to try and bring that along as well.
John Fort, if you were still running Qualcomm, would you have tried to buy ARM?
We actually thought about it a few times. I think, with where Nvidia is at in terms of the currency that they had with their stock, the deal makes much more sense. It didn't make sense to us financially back in the Qualcomm days. Hey, we even looked at buying Nvidia at one point in the past as well. So yeah, I think a lot of companies are looking at these things, and we see a fair amount of M&A going on now. So people are using their currency. The winners are using their currency.
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot on Squawk Alley. So to extend this what-if game, then, do you think that the likes of Qualcomm have reason to be wary of Nvidia in this situation? I mean, maybe not a direct competitor across the board, but, graphics technology in chips is an area that Qualcomm and others have work, and Nvidia obviously does.
Right. Qualcomm is very focused on the mobile chips, and therefore their graphics processors are very focused on power-constrained environments. Nvidia has traditionally been much more focused on the very, very highest end, giving you, photorealistic quality for your video games and so forth. So it's not necessarily a direct competition. There have been times when Nvidia was trying to compete in the mobile space, both with modems and with processors. Hadn't been that successful there. So I think there is, there are different spaces in that market. And so I think what will happen likely is if this deal goes through, there's going to be some constraints on Nvidia to keep things open so that companies like Qualcomm, like Apple, and of course the many, many companies, the smaller companies that use ARM architecture can continue to have access to it.
Okay, I also want your take on the news of the day. Apple expected to unveil a new iPad, updated Apple Watch, especially given this environment that we're in. How important are these two mobile products?
Well, I think, we all know we're on screens all the time right now, so that's one important thing. So iPads, I think they're getting a lot of use. Apple Watch, you and I had a conversation a long time ago about whether we were wearing wearables, but that seems to be a thing now. Everybody is into wearables. Yeah. I got my Fitbit on, tracking my sleep and my resting heart rate. And with the COVID, there's reasons why people want to, track things about how their body is working. So yeah, I think these, as we see more push into biometrics and the ability to keep track of your health, yeah, I think these things are very important. And the fact that Apple has really popularized them is, that's helped a lot.